When you were a child, summers felt endless. A single year felt enormous. Waiting for your birthday felt like waiting forever. Waiting for Christmas felt almost unbearable. Even a car ride home felt impossibly long, but then something changed. Years started collapsing. At first it was subtle. A school year suddenly ended faster than expected. Then entire semesters vanished. Then one day you realized it was already December again. Now birthdays arrive almost instantly. Weeks blur together, months collapse, entire years disappear before they even feel real. And the strangest part is, you don't even notice it happening. Most people assume the answer is simple, life just gets busier, but that's not quite right. Because even during vacations, even during quiet moments, even during times when nothing major happens, time still seems to pass in a blur, and researchers have spent decades trying to understand why. Because your brain does not experience time the way you think it does, it experiences change. In the late 1800s, philosopher and psychologist William James noticed something unusual about childhood memories. Looking back, early life often feels huge. People remember even tiny details from their childhood, but far less from their adult life. So James proposed a disturbing possibility. Maybe time feels faster, not because life itself changes, but because fewer experiences are being deeply recorded by the brain. More than a century later, scientists began finding evidence that he may have been right. In the 1960s, psychologist Robert Ornstein studied how humans experience time. What he found was quite strange. The brain does not measure time like a clock. Instead, it estimates time using memories. The more memories the brain forms during an experience, the longer that experience feels afterward, which explains something almost everyone has felt. Your very first experiences seem to last longer. Your first day at a new school, your first relationship, your first time driving alone. Those moments feel large because the brain was recording them more attentively. Novelty forces attention. Attention creates memory, and memory stretches the feeling of time. As you grow older, life becomes more patterned. You wake up at similar times, take the same routes, talk to the same people, and repeat. So, when the brain already knows what to expect, it stops paying close attention. Because from the brain's perspective, there's nothing new to record. In 2005, neuroscientist David Eagleman studied how unfamiliar experiences affect time perception. His research suggested that when the brain encounters something new, it processes far more information per second. But familiar experiences produce the opposite effect, but that's only part of the story. Because there may be another reason time feels faster as you age, and it has to do with proportion. In 1877, French philosopher Paul Janet proposed a simple idea. To a 10-year-old child, 1 year represents 10% of their entire life. But to a 50-year-old adult, 1 year represents only 2%. As your life expands, each individual year becomes a smaller fraction of your total experience, which may cause time to feel shorter. A single summer feels enormous to a child because it occupies a large portion of their small life. But to an adult, one summer barely feels different from the last one. Psychologist Douwe Drysma spent years studying autobiographical memory and aging. He concluded that the older you become, the fewer first times you experience. Your first kiss, your first heartbreak, your first apartment, your first real goodbye. Early years of life are filled with moments like these, but later in life, genuinely new experiences become rare, and without strong memory anchors, time begins losing its structure, which raises an uncomfortable question. If your brain experiences time through memory, and memory weakens when life becomes repetitive, is time really speeding up, or is your brain simply recording less of your life? In other words, the feeling that time is accelerating may not actually be about time at all. It may be about memory, about experience, about how much of life your brain decides is worth saving. The more unfamiliar the world feels, the slower life seems to move, which explains why childhood feels so memorable. Everything was new. Every day contained something the brain had never seen before. The world felt infinite because your mind was constantly discovering it for the first time. But adulthood slowly replaces discovery with prediction, until eventually, entire sections of life begin collapsing together. The disturbing reality is that you never actually feel time speeding up while it's happening. There is only the sudden realization that another year is already gone, another birthday, another summer, another version of your life disappearing into memory, and the terrifying possibility that time feels faster as you grow older because your brain is gradually learning to stop noticing your life.